I shouldn't say that because I feel like it's our superpower, and I don't want people to know about it.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning into our Smack Hospitality podcast again this week. For today's episode, I had the chance to speak to Richard Castle, co founder and COO of Cloudbeds, a tech platform that makes hotel owners' lives a whole lot easier. We talked about the beginnings of Cloudbeds, about the fact that innovation often comes from players outside of an industry, why Cloudbeds has always encouraged its employees to work remotely, and why he recommends any company, no matter in what industry they're in, to hire people with a hospitality background. Enjoy the show. Hello, Richard. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Patricia. Did I
So,
say that correctly? Patricia. Yeah.
Patricia,
Sorry.
yeah, it's my
Yeah.
name. I've heard everything from Patricia to Patrick. There's been everything in there.
Yeah.
But thank you for trying. Um,
Sorry.
no, don't worry at all. So, welcome. It's morning where you're sitting because you're based in San Diego, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Nice and sunny, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, it's been overcast. Usually we call it May gray and
Oh,
June
okay.
gloom. It's and then in the summer in July it gets really sunny. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have to visit sometime soon when all of this is over and everything's open again.
Yeah.
So the initial question I always ask my guests, and I'm sure that your answer is really interesting to this. How did you end up in our wonderful world of hospitality?
Well, I was a traveler, and my business partner Adam Harris, co-founder of Cloudbeds, and I were travelers. We love to travel, and I was trying to. I remember 2012. I was traveling in Brazil and trying to book a posada. This is 2 years before the World Cup, and I was looking online and found beautiful properties, and you'd go to their website and submit a form, and it would go almost nowhere, right? It's a kind of like a black hole. You'd never hear back from somebody. You'd call phone numbers, and sometimes people would answer, but oftentimes like it would just go to a recording. And this was 2 years before the World Cup in Brazil, and I remember thinking, wow, it's so difficult to make a direct reservation in Brazil at
Mm.
that time. And when I finally found a place. And I was traveling with my girlfriend, Brazilian, my wife now at the time. So we we finally found a place, and luckily she was there because I did not speak much Portuguese at that time. Um, and I'm sure you speak Portuguese, Patricia,
I
coming from
do not.
Switzerland, right?
I
Yeah,
do
no,
not.
I know, but you speak so many different languages there, so I'm jealous. Um, but I finally found a place, and the owner said, "Hey, just deposit money into this bank account." So I had to like physically go and deposit cash into his bank account to reserve the reservation. And my wife and I were just like, "Wow, this is crazy," I said, "Is it like this, pretty much in all over Brazil?" And she said, "Yeah, it's really like this. It's hard to make reservations online, and we do a lot of bank transfers and stuff like that." So I kind of came back to San Diego and talked with Adam, and we set out to build what we called Open Table for Travel.
Hmm.
So it was like the restaurant reservation system. We didn't know what an internet booking engine was. We didn't know anything about travel technology or travel business or anything like that. So we really approached it from the traveler standpoint.
You
Yeah,
so from the guest perspective, you switched over to the other side. So what was your
yeah.
job back
We
then? What were you doing back then when you were
back
traveling?
back then, Adam and I ran a consulting business, a technology consulting business for really product and engineering, software engineering consulting, a small boutique consulting business in San Diego. And we called ourselves the Yes Team. You would come to us and we would say, yes, we'll do it. Even if
That
we didn't know what we were doing, right? We just would figure it out and we would build something. And I was also an MBA student at Rady at the time in San Diego, doing an MBA program.
okay. So you found your calling while you were traveling.
Yes,
I think that's always the best though. Like it's basically experiencing what you're later on going to cater to and going to design is basically probably the best well initial research, right? Because you're acting out of a felt need, so to say.
I think so. Yeah, I think solving solving a personal problem that you have
Mm-hmm.
is how so many businesses get started. And you're just really solving a basic need that you have, and other
Mm-hmm.
people share that problem. Yeah.
So, how
So
have you and Adam experienced like being the outsider in our industry sometimes? Because I'm sure not everyone opened you with open arms.
well, I think we were when we started in 2012. Um, we really did feel like the outsiders, and in a way, it was a strength because we
Mm-hmm.
kind of felt like the underdogs. Like the David and Goliath battle. Like we were these underdogs. We really didn't. We were new to travel, and I remember um, we would be at events. Like the first time we went to ITV Berlin, we nobody knew who we were, nobody knew the company, nobody knew anything about us, and they were like, who are these guys? And we used to wear bathrobes, so we'd wear bathrobes at the events, and people would come up
Why
to us
bathrobes?
because we wanted a conversation starter, and we thought it was cool, wearing a bathrobe in your hotel room. So we were kind of like, we were in the hotel industry, right, in
That is
hospitality, and
so
so
cool.
we thought people would come up and ask us, hey, why are you wearing the bathrobes? And that became a conversation starter for what we were doing. But I think now we really are. We've been doing this for 9 years now, and we also surrounded ourselves with a lot of hotel experts and people from the travel industry. So I think Cloudbeds now, and Adam and I we're a good mix of diversity and both hotel experience and non-hotel experience. And I think that's almost a strength because we can approach things from an outsider's perspective, and maybe together with hotel people and
Mm-hmm.
hospitality people come up with a very innovative result and
Mm-hmm.
something that's very creative. So I think that's, yeah, it's kind of it was a strength, or it became a strength, really.
Yeah, in our initial chat before this episode, we already talked about it that it's actually happens a lot that especially radical innovation often comes from actors outside of the actual industry. And yeah, why do you think that is? Or you said in your case it was a strength, but yeah, it's funny
I,
how that sometimes comes to be like that. No.
yeah, it is, and I think it's in many industries, like there's some examples, like refrigeration is one of those examples. If you look at in the um, 1800s, and early 1900s, you used to have refrigeration of meat and stuff from ice that was chipped off, and ice was shipped down, at least in the
Hmm.
United States, from the northern states, and kind of shipped down rivers and sent to cities like New York for refrigeration. And the people that ran the refrigeration industry were called ice blockers, and there were people that shipped off big things of ice and like literally sent ice, and they stored it in warehouses. Um, and then that industry was basically taken over by ultimately mechanical engineers
Hmm.
and people creating refrigeration units and compressors to be able to refrigerate things with using electricity, right? And I think oftentimes we see this happen in a number of industries because I think people get stuck in the status quo and they don't change the status quo, and they're comfortable and they can just continue for years in that state. And oftentimes, people that have no experience in the industry bring a fresh perspective or something that they, can solve or see differently, and they're willing to challenge the status quo. Maybe they have nothing to lose,
Hmm.
right? Adam and
Hmm.
I really had nothing to lose at the time. We didn't know, like we weren't in hotel. We had no reputation to lose. In fact, we had to build a reputation, right? And so I think
Hmm.
it's like I think that's oftentimes what happens, in my opinion. Sort of just
Yeah.
yeah.
Definitely, and sometimes you just also invent something or find something by accident, and then you were actually looking for something completely different. But then you realize that this actually has an application for another problem within another industry, and then it
Yeah.
becomes a big hit.
And I think you can't do it just without like um, you also do need experts, right? You need industry people at some point, right? And
Hmm.
we did that with Cloudbeds too. We had we brought industry people around us, and together we could create more creative solutions eventually, right? And I think it's like we use the analogy of a spark plug on a car, and if you want to create a better spark plug And I think this is a classic business analogy, but you don't just want spark plug engineers around. You want people from different
Hmm.
experiences and some spark plug people, and then together you kind of put your heads together and come up with something more innovative. And I think it's
Hmm.
true of any type of creativity or innovation. I think
Yeah,
diversity in background and experience is really important.
definitely. It makes it sometimes harder to collaborate, but it's worth
It
it.
does. Yeah, it does. It can make it, yeah, it can make it more difficult to have like cohesion sometimes,
Hmm.
or you'll get in more arguments or things like that. But yeah, yep.
And then at the beginning, so how did you guys get started? Like, who were the first people that you kind of partnered with and that helped you get off the ground?
Um, the first people that we partnered with were some early stage investors. So um, we reached into our own network, and actually Adam had some really strong connections that were willing to put some money into Cloudbeds. Some people in private equity in different backgrounds that had, they wanted to diversify their portfolio
Hmm.
and take some risk on a crazy startup. And I remember they put a few $100,000 into Cloudbeds, and then I think where we really started, where we really got industry expertise was when a guy named Dave Clappel, who was he was the COO of Gaylord Resorts and Entertainment in the United States, and was in part of the the selling of Gaylord Resorts to Marriott Group, and invested some of his own capital into Cloudbeds in the early days and joined our board. So he brought some real professional hotel experience to our board and believed in us and has been here the entire time. But what do they say in the early days of a startup? It's the people that believe in you are friends and fools and families or
Yeah.
family members. So yeah, that was it.
Yeah, I think you need that, and that's the hard time at the beginning because you just don't know if that's gonna work, and you just need people to trust you and believe in you.
Yeah, and
But
then
it that
team
sorry,
members. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
yeah, we got a lot of team members too. It wasn't. I mean, the investment helped to hire people, but some of our early founding employees, um, like Rafael Blanas in sales, and just different people from real like lifelong hotel background,
Hmm.
came into Cloudbeds and really helped us to grow the company and the products and what we were doing. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, the team is where everything starts, right?
yeah,
I'm
it's all about the people. Yeah.
I mean, I'm doing a hotel opening right now, and next Monday the entire team is starting, and we're training everyone, and it's so important to get this first batch right. And while we were hiring, there were so many discussions and so many rounds because you just want to get the first initial step kind of right, because
Hmm.
you're also never going to be as tested as at the beginning, right? And hopefully, a lot of people stay. And I think you were also saying you have a very high retention rate of people at Cloudbeds, and I think that proves a lot.
Yeah, I think I think like the event that you're going through, like that opening, it probably brings people together, right? It's probably stressful, but it's fun, and you're making friends and probably making lifelong friends there, um, and you have to work together to open that property. And I think um, it's all about the people, like you said, and I think at Cloudbeds we do have really good retention,
Hmm.
but we track everything. We do employee net promoter scores. Like we pulse employees, so we ask them like how on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are they to refer friends and family to work at Cloudbeds, and we see what they say, right? And
Hmm.
if we find any problems, we go and try to ask like what's going on.
Hmm.
What can we do better? Like, and I think it comes down to like a servant leadership approach, like taking a servant leadership approach with your team members or people that report under you. Like you're there to serve their needs so that they can be most successful. And I think if you take that approach, it works really well typically. But
Yeah, I guess a lot
yeah,
of people don't have not seen the light when it comes to that leadership
Yeah.
approach yet, because it is very different, right, than the status quo. But it's really interesting, and it probably also, like, the fact that you are really following up and asking how your employees, how they're doing, probably also has something to do with the fact that you have a massive distributed workforce. So you have offices in San Diego, Dublin, and Sao Paulo, I think, but you
Yep.
have more than 400 employees scattered all over the globe.
Yes, we have people all over the globe. We are the embodiment of globalization, and uh, it's frequent at Cloudbeds to have people that speak more than one language. And me coming from the United States, it's I think we talked about this, right? It's we're like just we're really such an isolated country physically. Um, and I mean, we have Canada and Mexico, but we're a large landmass, but we're really quite isolated compared to Europe, or South America even. And I think, or Southeast Asia, right? But I think it's really, um, I think we have made Cloudbits very multinational from the beginning and surrounded ourselves with very international people, and people that speak multiple languages, like I said. And I think it's one of the reasons people love to work at Cloudbeds and love Cloudbeds. And I think one of the reasons we're able to like do what we're doing in the travel industry, because we are all travelers. We like people from different cultures. We like to meet people from different cultures. And so I think it's a huge part of Cloudbeds, and I think it's something we will always want to continue.
Hmm.
So
And you
yeah,
did that from day one, right? Like, you already at the beginning said,
we
hey,
were, yeah.
you were so
Yeah.
ahead of your time.
Actually, people thought we were. I think early investors thought we were crazy.
Hmm.
Um, you know, having a remote first company, having this sort of distributed workforce. Like, there were some people that said, "This is never going to work. Like, why are you guys doing this? Like, people need to be all, in an office together." Um, and honestly, sometimes we do miss the face-to-face interactions during COVID, for example. I think everyone felt more isolated during COVID because we couldn't really get together. And
Hmm.
we do encourage people to have face-to-face interactions and get together with like little regional meetups and things like this, right? So it's like we still need that face-to-face time, but yeah, we were very distributed and remote from the beginning. In fact, I think I lived in Sao Paulo, and Adam he was in San Diego for a couple years. We were actually living in different countries, and it helps when the two founders are literally in different countries to begin with, right?
Yeah,
To
true.
encourage that mindset,
Yeah.
distributed, mindset.
But what
Yeah.
were you? So I'm sure that some of your also first hires were not used to that setup, right? So what did you do to getting them acclimated to this new style of working?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it's not everyone in the early days, like in 2012, 13, 14, um, even pre-COVID, not everyone was really acclimated to working remote and to working out of their house or a co-working space. And and so we made some mistakes in the early days. We hired some people that I think weren't okay with it, and they weren't ready.
Yeah.
And they, in the early days, and I think we had to what we did is we made it part of our hiring process, and we made sure that people understood, like what it's like to work remote, and how you have to compartmentalize, sometimes
Hmm.
your personal life and your work life, and it can kind of blend together. And is that something that you really want? And I think we also had this set up, like we call it people parity. So we did things like, if so we do have an office in San Diego headquarters. We have a little office in Sao Paulo, and we have one in Dublin, Ireland. But we did rules like, if people are going to come to the office or be in the office, then first of, it's optional. Nobody has to go in. But if they are in the office, they can't be on a meeting in a meeting room or a conference room and have some people be remote and then have some people be physically present. They all have to be remote. So if some people are remote, everyone has to be remote. Otherwise, it creates like a
Yeah.
feeling that
A
somebody
you
doesn't
and
belong or
them.
fit
Yeah.
in. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
so we had to like basically constantly fight against the physical office concept at all times. We still do now, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's something we have to actively work for and provide training for employees, like um, how to deal with remote work, like
Mm-hmm.
how to set up a remote office, and like just how to compartmentalize and stuff like that. How to use Slack,
Yeah.
how to use Zoom, yeah, things like this. So yeah,
But it's really interesting because I can imagine that now, like during the last year, some people came to you for advice. No, like, hey guys, you've been doing this forever. Can
yeah,
you help me?
we got a lot of our investors, early stage investors, and even later stage investors came to us for advice, and I think they saw the distributed workforce at Cloudbeds as a strength. If you can pull it off, if you can do it, it's a strength. And they have come to us and asked us to talk in front of their other companies and things like this. And especially during COVID, where like you have to be remote. Even if you were like, I don't know, like a government energy company,
Hmm.
right? Like you still have to be remote. And so imagine like a government company or something, or government administration, like working remote, like they're not set up for that at all. Like if you can imagine, right? Like,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
so I think, yeah, it was really difficult for certain companies to convert to remote work. And yeah,
So I also read that you did, however, last year, I think, really like build out and expand your HQ office in San Diego, right? Because you had like a
we
vision of
did.
transforming it a bit.
Yeah, and we did. And this was a hotly debated. It was a very debated topic because we had to be really careful doing it, because we didn't want we saw the office as like an existential threat to cloud beds, to our culture. Kind of like, uh, we we had to really we had people in San Diego around the headquarters, and many of those people continued to work remote many days a week. So even I would only go into the office like 1 or 2 days a week in San
Hmm.
Diego, as an example, because we really wanted the headquarters to be a place where if we flew people in, or people were flying into San Diego, they could use the headquarters to work. We could use it as a meeting place. We could have board members fly in. We could have our team members fly in, and it would kind of be a gathering spot where you can put your laptop down and work. We also have 2 apartments right now, and we want to add more to Cloudbeds. But we have one in Sao Paulo and one in San Diego, where any team member can rent that apartment for free and stay there with their family, up to 2 weeks at a time. And that San Diego apartment and Sao Paulo apartment is used frequently by team members
Hmm.
traveling around, and they can come into the office and work while they're there if they want.
Such a nice
So
benefit.
yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah. It's kind of like a small version of Zoku in a way.
Yeah,
Like,
that's true.
yeah, like, but not really like the scale, but I mean like a really tiny Cloudbeds version of that.
Hmm. No, but it's nice because then you basically reduce the border of someone coming and actually seeing the offices and meeting the team and everything, because you're already set up in a way that it's easy for them to come, like you said, bring the family and everything. So I think that is already
Mm,
a big help, to reduce the
yeah,
ambiguity of someone doing that or thinking of doing that.
yeah, we want to do it more. We want to have more of these places to stay, and little, like, we want to have little pockets of like little co-working spots, and
Hmm.
things where people can like live and work. And I think that's a big part of Cloudbeds. Like, we live and kind of work in the same spot as remote, as a distributed workforce. And I think we kind of want to encourage that type of
Hmm.
lifestyle. And I mean,
Hmm.
Cloudbeds is very much like a lifestyle. It really is a lifestyle. Like, it's like, not many people are here just for a job. I think most people are here, it's as a lifestyle and an experience that they can like either take and grow inside of Cloudbeds, or take outside of Cloudbeds someday to another company if they want to,
Hmm.
right? And we encourage that too. So yeah,
That is a very nice way to like talk about your own company, I think, and hopefully, like we were saying before, the retention rate is very high, and I think that shows that people can really feel that as well. So I
yeah,
read that I think you're starting a European office in Madrid. Is that correct?
We we're thinking at some point of putting an office in. Well, I think we would debate, is it Madrid or Barcelona?
Hmm.
And I think uh, I think we just put an entity in Spain. So we did not have an entity in Spain, but now we have an entity there. And so we'd like to have like a little office in Spain somewhere for team members to be able to go in and work, and also, um, you know, I think we are going to be losing our office in Dublin, Ireland. So we'll have to find a new location. I think they're closing down that co-working spot. So we're going to have to. I think COVID was hard on them,
Hmm.
difficult. So I think we're going to
Hmm.
have to find a new spot. But yeah, that's definitely coming in the future for sure.
And then you also said that you like hiring people from traditional hospitality backgrounds because, like we were saying before, it adds a different layer to it. So, what would you? Because I hear that a lot, that the people outside from the industry are actively hiring from hospitality because of different skills that you just don't find in other people. So, can you elaborate a bit on that?
I mean, it's like it's. I think it's one of our superpowers is being able to hire. So we're a technology and product company. Like technology company, our heart, like our soul is a technology company. We have found that um, people from the hotel industry, hospitality industry, um, are really incredible team members to work at Cloudbeds because super they're super hardworking and dedicated. They oftentimes work 6 to 7 days a week at hotels. They have to work on, you know, weekends and holidays and things like this. So they come with like a really incredible work ethic. They have really a first rate and best in class, customer relationship skill set, that to take care of the customer or make sure that the customer is taken care of, which is really important to Cloudbeds. And they treat our customers like that, and they treat our team members like that too. They also are in the hotel industry, so they know hotels and know hospitality, right? So that's important for us too. and and they're just honestly incredible people. They love to travel. They're very global. They oftentimes have learned and speak um, multiple languages. And those are the kind of people we want at Cloudbits, right? So it's
Hmm.
like everything that we want. I mean, they're the best people. I think some of the best people to hire in the world, and I think that many other companies and industries could learn from this and hire people from the hotel industry if you can get, I mean, if you can find them, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really encouraging to hear that that hospitality talent is really attractive for companies within and without our industry. Because especially now with the crisis, a lot of people are also just looking to find opportunities outside of the industry, and it's nice to hear like feedback also from my colleagues and friends that they actually had a smooth landing, and people were really surprised by what they bring, and what hospitality has taught us. So it's nice to hear.
Yeah, and I can't say that enough. I think they're really great people to hire. So if you're listening and you have a company or you're hiring people, look in the hotel industry, hospitality industry, right? Yep. I shouldn't say that because I feel like
Definitely.
it's our superpower, and I don't want people to know about it. Anyway, okay.
To discover it.
Yeah, to
True.
discover it.
Um, so I don't want to dwell on the crisis too much because I think it's a boring topic at this point, but it's always a great opportunity to have someone in a leadership position as a guest. So I can ask them about, how this like first few days or first week was, where we truly understood like the magnitude of this crisis that was going to hit us last March. So yeah, it would just be interesting to hear what your and Adam's first thoughts were.
It, you know, the way we say it's like a meteor or an asteroid hit our industry, and to be honest, it was literally unbelievable. And you're sitting here almost like kind of with an out of weird, like especially having having been growing Cloudbeds and having had it grow so much and we were doing so well, to see what was happening with COVID, and it's coming to us. It was coming to my own city, my family, my friends. It was stalking us like a predator stalking us. Um, and it felt like kind of out of body or out of mind experience a little bit, like you're kind of like you don't believe that this is really happening. And I think it really changed us. It changed what we were doing at Cloudbeds. It changed, and an example of this is it wasn't business as usual, right? It was we couldn't pick up the phone and sell Cloudbeds to custom or to potential properties. We couldn't make product announcements. Oh, hey, COVID's happening. By the way, we've got some new product for you. Like, have a good day, right? Like, what could we do? We couldn't do anything that was normal. So we completely turned our attention on um, basically one major initiative called Hospitality Helps, and it was literally a we started connecting um, emergency um, emergency staff with vacant hotels or hotels that had openings so they could stay in these hotels. And honestly, it was the only thing we could do to get our mind, like, to actually feel like we were doing something that mattered. And what we were doing at Cloudbeds previously didn't matter anymore. What mattered
Mhm.
was COVID and this crisis. And so that's what we did in the early days of COVID with Cloudbeds. It was focus on hospitality helps, and we made we connected, hundreds of groups like nurses, doctors, patients, or people that needed a place to quarantine with these vacant hotels. And then I think a lot of other groups started doing the same thing globally, and I think it became kind of common for hotels to be used and stuff for these COVID situations, right? So, but it was unlike nothing we've ever seen. And within 4 or 6 weeks, we lost 35% of our revenue, and
Insane.
then we gained it all back by the end of the year. Over time, it took a long time to get it back, and yeah, it's devastating. But yeah,
But would you say that as you were already set up remotely, in a way, you were better set up for what was going to come?
yeah, um, we were fully remote. So for us, we didn't have to, train anybody on how to be like everyone knew how to be
Hmm.
remote. We could have company-wide calls. We could, everyone was ready to go and work. And I think it allowed us to act very quickly with Hospitality Helps, and to do that, um, we didn't have to spend any time figuring out how to be remote. And I think the other thing that helped was and I don't know, this is crazy. The timing was crazy, but we raised around $82 million round of funding from Viking, and who led the round, Viking Global, that led the round for Cloudbeds. But we raised it literally, I think, like 2 days before the lockdowns in the United States. So like 2 days before the lockdowns in the
Correct.
United States, like we raised this funding, and it was just like this huge adrenaline rush. You can imagine, like, um, just feeling like this huge rush of adrenaline. It's just like we're not sure if this is going to happen or not, right?
Hmm.
And they believed in us and what we were doing, and took a long term approach. And we raised that money 2 days before, so we were very lucky, very lucky.
Yeah, for I think for us it was the same thing. I heard a story from our HQ in Amsterdam that 2 or 3 days before everything basically happened in Europe, we were about to sign a new contract, like for a new project in for a new Zoku, and then it didn't come through. And thankfully, that just was put on hold because we couldn't have committed to another opening within the conditions that were going to hit us, right? So
Yeah,
yeah, it is crazy how sometimes
that's it's crazy. And
saved by the bell.
yeah, I know, right? And there's also a lot of opportunity on, like, when in all the craziness, um, there was also a lot of opportunity. And I think, like, Zoku, it seems like, really sees that opportunity, and the move to remote work, and the work life balance, and like blending work and life together, and like I think a lot of opportunity came from COVID too, in a
Mm-hmm.
strange way, relatively
Mm-hmm.
speaking. And we're seeing a lot of new lodging businesses emerge, and just, unfortunately, a lot of lodging businesses closing as well, or have,
Mm-hmm.
they closed in the earlier days of COVID. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's, it kind of accelerated things, right? In a way, like
Definitely.
whatever trends were going on before COVID, these trends, it just like accelerated them by like 10 years or something, or five
Mm-hmm.
years, right? Just really fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
no, definitely. I mean, we always say with crisis comes also great opportunity, right?
yeah,
And I think some products or some concepts are better set up to cater to that than others. But especially the hospitality industry, it's also a very traditional industry, as we know.
yeah.
And we were forced to innovate, and I think. A lot of good can come from it as well, and yeah, like digitalization and the openness to also work remotely. I think the mindset of not only companies but also employees will change and have changed. That they demand a more flexible working style, and I think it's really interesting what's going to come to like what's going to happen in our industry. And yeah, I just wanted to also ask you about your opinion. What sort of changes do you think are here to stay, that we've experienced, and what will fade very quickly?
I mean, I think we saw the emergence before COVID of this sort of a more unique type of lodging business. You know, whether it's more vacation rental focused or more like a Zoku, which is kind of um, like work life lofts, like a work life loft business, right? Where you can kind of live and work in the same space, and like this I think that's going to bring with it like this emergence of a new type of work life arrangement, and what was a traditional like corporate event, or corporate, which I think is probably one of the most impacted areas of travel, the corporate event space. And I think everyone would agree, right? It I don't know that corporate events will return to the way they used to be, right? In terms of like corporations getting these big physical offices, having these giant, necessarily giant corporate events. I think there'll be like smaller regional get-togethers and regional meetups, and I think more of a distributed workforce and encouragement of team members to work in different regions that you know work for their cost of living and where they want to live, and where they want to be close to, whether they want to be close to family or
Hmm.
cut down on commute time. And I think there will be regional events, like more smaller regional meetups. I think people still crave face to face time, and I think they want to be like,
Hmm.
I can tell you, like, I am very much looking forward to not doing virtual events like soon. I really do want to do physical meetups, but I think they'll be regionalized, and they'll be like smaller get-togethers,
Hmm.
and I think a lot of properties like Zoku, I think, are the way of the future, to be honest. Like, so like apartment hotels, work life lofts, things like
Hmm.
this. And
Yeah,
um, yeah,
definitely.
yeah,
And I think it's just because we were forced to live the hybrid life, right, for a year now. So everyone who never thought that, home office was something for them, now they definitely know, and how
I
they
know.
are, have to arrange themselves and everything. So I do also hope that, for example, business travel is going to come back more sustainable, and people are not going to fly to Frankfurt in the morning and then back in the next on the next
No,
morning. So I really hope that people are just gonna go somewhere when it's really necessary, stay for a bit longer, and really work like
I,
project orientated, and not just flying there for the sake of it to make an appearance.
I honestly think, yeah, that's a really good point. This sustainable travel, or work, sustainable work life balance, and I think sustainable commuting. Like in the United States, I mean, that we have like one of the most dependent societies on automobiles in the world, right? And we have a horrible public transportation network in general. And yeah, it's no surprise, right? Like, it's just go to Los Angeles, and it's like
Hmm.
there's no real public transportation, right? And my parents are coming down to visit my wife and me tomorrow evening. And in the past, so they're coming down to visit, and I'm trying to like look. I'm looking on Google Maps, and I'm looking. Okay, if they're going to arrive at this time, they need to leave at this time because traffic is going to be horrible, and I don't want my parents to be caught in traffic. And I'm looking on Google Maps, and the algorithm has already been updated, the traffic algorithm, and there is no traffic. There's no
Mm-hmm.
traffic. Like I couldn't find traffic. So I was adjusting the arrival time to see, okay, well maybe I missed something. There's still no traffic.
Mm-hmm.
And I told them, I said, well, you can pretty much leave at any time. It doesn't appear that there's any traffic coming down here anymore. And
It's crazy.
COVID is a big part of that, right? So think about like just the
Mm-hmm.
pollution that has been decreased, and ecosystems that are like um maybe
Yeah.
like new types of birds and species that are like doing
Yeah.
better now because of this the cut down in pollution. So I think it is about what you said, like the sustainable work life balance, and sustainable work and commuting.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
it forced us to all take a break, right? And then question some things and hopefully come back with better solutions and not just doing the same status quo thing that we've been doing for a very long time.
I know, right? Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Definitely. So I always try to end my episodes with a little question about your experiences and what you would recommend young people starting out in the industry to keep in mind when launching their career.
Yeah.
Because I'm a recent graduate myself, right? And I
Hmm.
always
Yeah,
think having the opportunity to talk to someone who has just done so many things already in their lives, I think it's a very nice resource to tap into. So, is there anything that you would like to tell your 20-year-old self that you wish you'd known back then?
my 20-year-old self. Yeah, that's a great question, right? I think I think one thing that I've realized is the younger you are, so it depends on how you view time, right? Like, do you view time as a commodity that you have a finite amount of? Like, do you have a finite amount of time in your life to do things? I like to think that's true. We do. I know different cultures approach it from different ways, and at Cloudbeds and people do approach time from different perspectives. But I believe that we have a finite amount of time to live, and my advice to my former self would be take as much risk as possible when you're young. Do as many things as you can do, have as many experiences, meet as many people, make as many relationships as you can. If you want to start a business when you're young. You have little to lose. You have so much time left in the world to do different things in your life, and I think when you're young is the time to take risk, to challenge the
Mhm.
status quo, and to travel and get out there and see and enjoy the world, and never stop doing that, right? But as you get older, like it you know you might have a family, and you might have more concern about
Responsibilities.
finances and responsibilities, right? And so it just becomes more difficult to do that. So do it when you're young. That's what I would
Hmm.
say.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I definitely agree, and sometimes I think our generation, like we have this. People say that we are more cautious and more worried, and we're the first generation to not take risks anymore because we are the first generation to not have to start at a better place than the generation before us. So I really hope that people are listening and taking that advice.
I think we have to. Yeah. The younger generation has to continue to challenge the status quo, right,
Hmm.
in life. So yeah, it's good.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy
Okay.
day. I had a
Thank
great
you.
time.
Thank you so much. Yes,
Of
I
course.
I did too. Yeah.
Cool. And then maybe welcome back in season 3.
That
Looking
would be
forward.
awesome. Yeah, yeah. I should interview you next time.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Thank you very much. Have a great
Okay.
day.
Thanks. Bye.
That's it for this episode, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Special thanks to our season sponsor, I Reckon You, hospitality's first customer data platform. Their philosophy is to stop buying software and building a framework. Their middleware platform connects a hotel's above property and on-premise systems, creating a frictionless flow of hotel and guest data that enhances the guest journey while increasing operational efficiency. Find out more at ireckonyou.com, and don't forget to check out what there is to know about Smack at smack.media or on our YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook channel. We'll see you next time.